I just want to ask a question. Am I being arrested for something I didn't do?
We've been arrested.
Oh.
What would you do if you met someone online who seemed charming, attractive, and friendly, but turned out to be a violent and abusive killer? That's what happened to Grace Mullane, a young British woman who was murdered by a man she met on Tinder in New Zealand. Grace Mullane was a 22-year-old backpacker who had a passion for travel and adventure. She had just graduated from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing and was on a gap year trip that took her to South America and New Zealand. But her dream turned into a nightmare when she met Jesse Kempson, a 28-year-old man who had a history of violence and sexual abuse against women. He strangled her to death in his hotel room in Auckland, then buried her body in a remote area. How did this happen? What was the motive behind this brutal crime? And what did the police and the courts do to bring justice to Grace and her family? In this video, I will reveal the shocking truth behind the murder of Grace Mullane. Grace Mullane arrived in New Zealand's largest city, Auckland, on November 20th, 2018, after traveling for 6 weeks through South America. She planned to stay in New Zealand for 2 weeks before heading to Australia. On November 30th, she checked into a backpackers hostel in the center of Auckland, sharing a 4-person dormitory. She matched on Tinder with Jesse Kempson, who lived in the City Life Hotel nearby. She also went on a date with another man that night. On December 1st, she left the hostel at 5:37 p.m. and traveled to the Sky City complex, where she took a photo of a Christmas tree and sent it to her family back in England. It was the last message they received from her. She met Kempson at Sky City at 5:45 p.m., and they went on a date, visiting several bars and drinking heavily. They ended up at the Bluestone Room, where they kissed and appeared to be enjoying each other's company. At 9:40 p.m., they left the bar and walked across the laneway to the City Life Hotel, where Kempson lived. They entered his apartment on the 3rd floor. It was the last time Grace was seen alive. The next day, December 2nd, was Grace's 22nd birthday. Her family and friends sent her messages but got no reply. Mullane's Tinder date with Kempson had taken place the night before, on the eve of her 22nd birthday. She was last seen on CCTV around 9:40 p.m. on December 1st, 2018, going into the hotel that Kempson was living in. The pair were arm in arm as they approached the hotel, and earlier had been seen kissing in a nearby bar in Auckland. Mullane's family had described their loss of contact as completely out of character, and reported her missing 3 days after her birthday, which caused the police to launch what was initially a missing person investigation. Jesse Kempson was first approached by police after they discovered he was the last person to post on Mullane's Facebook page. On December 7th, David Mullane, Grace's father, arrived in New Zealand and made an emotional appeal for any information about his daughter's disappearance. On December 8th, the missing persons investigation turned into a homicide inquiry. Police identified Kempson as the prime suspect and arrested him. On December 9th, Grace's body was found at around 4 p.m. in the Waitakere Ranges by police officers using GPS data from Kempson's phone, and Kempson was charged with murder. In his initial police interview, Kempson had told police that he and Mullane had parted after their date at around 10 p.m., and that was the last time he saw her. He became a suspect after the CCTV evidence contradicted his version of events. Kempson was later caught on CCTV leaving the hotel room with a porter's trolley, which was carrying 2 suitcases. Information taken from Kempson's phone showed that he had been searching online for information that would help him cover up the murder in the hours immediately afterward. In the hours after Kempson murdered Mullane, he had Googled Waitakere Ranges on his phone, the area where Grace's body was found. According to Kempson's later claim, they had sex involving choking, which he said Grace had asked for. He said he fell asleep and woke up to find her dead on the floor. He said he panicked and tried to cover up his tracks. But according to the prosecution's case, Kempson deliberately strangled Grace to death with his hands or forearm for several minutes, possibly while she was unconscious or unable to resist. He then took photos of her body and searched online for ways to dispose of it. Between 1:29 a.m. and 6 a.m., Kempson viewed pornography, took more photos of Grace's body, and searched online for topics such as rigor mortis, extra-large bags, carpet cleaner, hottest fire, and Waitakere Ranges, where he would later bury Grace's body. Between 8 a.m. and 10:42 a.m., Kempson left his apartment and bought a large suitcase and cleaning products. He hired a car and during the afternoon Googled flesh-eating birds and are there vultures in New Zealand. At 2:53 p.m. he went on another Tinder date with another woman at a Ponsonby pub. He told her that his friend had died of cancer the day before. At 6 p.m. he hired a carpet cleaning machine and later returned it. At 9:26 p.m. he took Grace's body inside the suitcase down to the hire car. He drove around Auckland for a while before returning to his apartment. On November 5th, 2019, the prosecution and the defense called their witnesses and experts who gave evidence about the events of the night of the murder, the cause of death, the post-mortem examination, the forensic analysis, the CCTV footage, the phone records, the online searches, and the character of Kempson and Grace. The prosecution argued that Kempson killed Grace intentionally and with murderous intent, and that his claim of accidental death during consensual sex was a lie. The defense argued that Kempson did not mean to kill Grace and that her death was a tragic accident resulting from a sexual act that she consented to and initiated. Kempson did not take the stand to give evidence in his own defense. On November 22, 2019, Justice Moore summed up the case and instructed the jury on the law. The jury retired to consider its verdict. After 5 hours of deliberations, the jury delivered a unanimous guilty verdict. Kempson was convicted of murder. On February 21, 2020, Kempson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years in the High Court in Auckland. He filed an appeal against his conviction and sentence. On December 18, 2020, Kempson's appeal was dismissed by New Zealand's Court of Appeal. His name suppression was also lifted by the Supreme Court, allowing him to be identified by New Zealand media for the first time. It was also revealed that he had been convicted of sex attacks on 2 more women in separate trials in October and November 2020. He had met both of them through Tinder as well, and had subjected them to rape, assault, and threats. Grace Millene's murder shocked and saddened New Zealand and the world. It raised awareness about the dangers of online dating, the prevalence of violence against women, and the need for better support for victims of sexual abuse. It also prompted New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to apologize to Grace's parents, David and Gillian, saying, "Your daughter should have been safe here. She wasn't, and I'm sorry for that." Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through the Grace Millane murder case. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more gripping investigations and insightful content. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.